Hello guys, welcome back tonight for another session of Carnivore Team GB, session number 19. Myself, Jonathan Griffiths, Ben Hunt, and of course the wonderful Lee Coppus from @Ken Carnivore. We may be joined by Phil and Richard tonight, and also maybe Stephen, but I'm not sure. It depends on what's going on in their lives, and I understand Phil's going through some tricky stuff at the moment. Transportation issues, we'll call it that. But how are you guys doing tonight anyway?
Yeah, I'm all good, mate. Not too bad.
Hey, Stephen.
Hey, Stephen.
Hello.
How you doing, mate? All right?
I'm doing very well, thank you.
Good stuff.
Look, you got your hoodie and your thing on. I've got my hoodie on.
You know what? I was going to cut my hair because it's starting to... I've worn this all day because my hair is just a mess now because I don't use any product. Usually a bit of water and a little bit of tallow or something, keep it back. But today it looks a mess. So I thought I'd stick a hat on. I think this weekend I'm going to give it a cut. So
Right.
yeah. I might go as short as you.
Yeah. Or short as Jonathan.
Yeah, well, yeah, I could do that for surgery. I suppose I could go out with a bang like that, couldn't I?
I think you look sick. I think you look brilliant.
I'll do eyebrows as well. I'll shave it all off.
I look like I've got no eyebrows because the light's so intense, and I'm also very, very blonde. So it's annoying as hell. My beard and my eyebrows actually look darker in the sun, which is weird. And I think it gives me more contrast in my face. But I just look like a white Michelin man for the most part of the year, which wasn't too fun. But I don't think anyone else really cares. Yeah, we're so tonight. Yeah, tonight we've got Ben on with the buttons as well. So Ben's gonna be helping me out, pressing buttons. It's a bit of an arduous task at times, but there's two of us doing it now. So we've got another mastermind behind the keys.
Can't wait. I'm 79 days into my 90-day, fairly strict carnivore thing. I had an utter binge 2 days ago, and ate half a packet of breakfast cereal.
Oh.
Yeah, no, it started because there was some crap left in the house because then my missus has moved out and my stepdaughter, because the marriage is breaking up, and they left a cupboard full of carbs behind. And I made the mistake of thinking, well, because I've got these couple of crates of non-alcoholic beer as well that was left over when I was just cutting out the alcohol. And I had 3 cans of that. And of course, it's got carbs in. And once I did that, then it was penguin biscuits, popcorn. I just went completely Cookie Monster for one night, and then ate this half a box of breakfast cereal just out of the box with my hand, like a skank. It was disgraceful.
Did you pay for it?
Yeah. The next day I had a tight stomach, so not entirely, farting like an absolute steam train. It was ridiculous. So it's really weird though, because it's after 10 weeks of strict carnivore, what I'm not sure about is, did I become more sensitive in that time to these effects, or were the effects the same as they always will have been? It's just that because everything was quieter, I noticed, and so they felt stronger.
Yeah,
I don't know if anyone can really answer that question.
Yeah,
I can.
Yeah. With the Seedors, when I've accidentally had Seedors, I just had the same sort of thing tightening, like some sort of heat that repeated on me around my solar plexus. And it was like, what is going on? It's weird. I've had some dodgy sausage. Well, they weren't even dodgy sausages. Apparently, they were all pure, nothing in it. Ate about 8 for breakfast. And then later on, I was creased in my stomach. And so, yeah, I think whatever it was, whatever tiny bit of something, I think we get extra sensitive and pay. It's probably like introducing sugar again. You're probably going to have a really elevated spike. Do you know what I mean?
Ben, I mean, for sure. I mean, what I actually tell people to do, if I know someone, they have a social life, and for them, having that popcorn at the cinema, having a beer on the weekend with their friends after a sports match is their thing. That makes them happy, gives them better quality of life. I say, have it, but have it every 2 to 3 weeks so you don't build up some kind of weird resistance to it. Because your gut microbiome changes approximately every 2 to 4 weeks. So I say if you keep it in semi-regularly, you're probably going to be better off for it in that kind of sense. Then one day you might kick it to curb and just think, I can't be arsed anymore. Just get rid of all the stuff in your cupboards. Be like me, just don't have light bulbs in your room. Don't have anything. Don't do anything fun at all. Just go to the gym and go outside and buy from your local farm shop and make videos.
Yeah, I always tell the story of when I was high carb. I used to like going to this juice bar because I was high carb and thought I was being healthy. and it would be one of those with wheatgrass and some oats and some honey and power protein, which I really genuinely cannot remember what the protein was. And I would have those maybe 3-4 times a week. And then I went low carb, went keto, and I was in Birmingham and at the Bullring, in Birmingham. And there was this concession stand of a juice bar. And I said to Jane, my wife, oh, wow, I haven't had one of those for years. I wonder what it's like, whether I still like it. Well, I had one, and I drank less than this quantity in this water here. And for those that are listening on audio, it's not very much. It's like half a tumbler full. And within 20 minutes, I was on a park bench asleep. It absolutely killed me. Absolutely killed me. So that was a long period of not having that stuff. I mean, for you, Ben, you've sort of been in and out of having the occasional non-carnivore thing. But I can assure you, when you go clean and you start to be fat adapted, your body really does respond and tell you, wow, that's toxic. And I think the body is amazing. If you go somewhere with high altitude, like athletes, everything adapts. It takes like 6 weeks. And then you're really perfectly fine to operate there. And then you'll come back and you'll be feeling the difference in the atmosphere. So we adapt. So if you're living on, rubbish, if you're living on plant-based refined grains and all that sort of stuff, you adapt to that, and your body is brilliant because it gets you through. And like I say, I could have those juice things and have the whole tumbler full quite easily and think I was doing myself a favor. And it wasn't. It really, really wasn't doing me a favor. I was just coping with it. And it's like when people talk about lactose tolerance or intolerance, tolerating is not thriving. There is a big difference. So I've deliberately recently been having, when we're out, cappuccinos with milk, to sort of make myself a bit bulletproof to those social events. Because I normally drink, and it's always decaf, by the way, a Swiss water decaf with pouring cream. Well, getting proper dairy pouring cream out and about is difficult now, sadly. And a lot of them say, yes, we do have cream. And I always go, it's not that Elmley stuff, is it? And, oh, yeah. And they think it's cream. And it's not. It's vegetable oil. It's atrocious. This is in the UK, by the way. I'm sure it's the same in America, but as it's Team GB, we're allowed to talk about this, and it's one of those things where people think it's a sign of weakness. It's the same with the glucose tolerance test. I've mentioned this in my book about the guide to blood tests that I'm going to do a talk on. The end of March, the Easter weekend at the War on Health, talking about blood tests in the context of keto, low carb, and carnivore. And I do not recommend a glucose tolerance test. There's the word again, tolerance, because why would I want 20 teaspoons in 8 ounces of water? The equivalent of 20 teaspoons of sugar in a quantity of fluid. Why would I want to tolerate that? I'm actually pleased I can't tolerate that, because we shouldn't be able to. That's toxic amount of sugar. I mean, we should have 1 teaspoon in 5 liters of blood. So why should we introduce 20 or 10 even? Why should we do that and think that that's going to be something we should be able to tolerate? There's a hell of a lot of insulin needed, and it's just looking at it the wrong way, totally the wrong way. So, I mean, yeah, because you're, what did you say, 75 days in, yeah, and being strict, that is a long time, but it's I think if it was longer, yeah, I think your reaction would have been a hell of a lot worse. And I'm sorry to hear the situation you were in there, by the way, but it shows you're human. And I think it's also nice to have that full transparency and be honest, because a lot of people that I coach, they really panic when they go off the track. And I say, right, okay, my advice is, if you ever go off the track, just make sure the next meal is carnivore. That's it. Don't sweat over it. Don't feel guilty. Don't beat yourself up. And the worst thing is to think, well, I've done it now, I might as well just throw in the towel. And that's ridiculous. It's there's lots of corny inspirational phrases you can use. Like in boxing, it's not how many times you get knocked down, it's how many times you get back up. So if you can have the occasional moment where you go off track, and you get straight back on it, actually that's pretty resilient. Yeah, of course it's good if Ben said, yeah, I did a 90-day challenge and I was perfect for 90 days. Yeah, that's good too. But also if you say, like, you know, I had some personal issues that made things a bit difficult, there was a lot of temptation, and I only went off the track once. Wow, that's pretty good too. You know, and you know, I'm coaching someone who's really, you know, worried. They didn't email me with their, you know, the mood and food diary stuff. And I just said, hey, look, you know, you've had these bad habits for many years. Emailing me a picture of your food every day, if you can't do it, it doesn't matter. You know, it's your first week in. Just, you know, hook up for a next session. We talk about it and let's get you on track. And I think that's the thing. The carnivore space is not militant. It's very relaxed. There's lots of choices. There's lots of ways you can do it. There's lots of things that you can still eat and slowly, you know, take out. And it doesn't have to be a magic switch. It doesn't have to be, wow, within 7 days, I feel amazing. You know, so there's so much to this way of eating. But anyway, Ben, I'll take my hat off to you. If I had a hat, I'd take it off. And thank you, Matthew's talked about my hoodie. Yeah, I'm experimenting with a bit of merch, by the way. This didn't come out as good as I'd like, but yeah. Yeah, so that's my take on that. Sorry to monopolize the conversation.
Just so everyone's aware, both Coach Steve and I are both now selling merchandise on our channels. So if you click below our videos, you can go on our channels, click on that shop bit. We get, I think it's something like a 20% cut of anything you buy. So for example, if you spent, I don't know, 40 quid in a hoodie, we'll get like a 5, 6, 7, 8 quid of that, which is quite helpful as well. And it will have our logos in it, so it'll have the Carnivore experience and also the Carnivore muscle with my big ass logo, which is nowhere to be seen right now, but just imagine I'm wearing it. But they're all in the wash, all like 9 of them. Anyway, we get to the questions now. We get to the questions and stuff like that, just so everyone knows we're still doing a Q&A. Yes, definitely hit the like button. Absolutely imperative. We've got a question from Matthew, which is about what water we drink.
No way.
Fun enough, we were talking about this just earlier, weren't we? What water we drink, what do we do? There's another question later about how much we drink, so perhaps we just go around the panel, maybe start with Ben, and just say what water we drink and how much.
Yep. Okay, so I drink tap water that's been treated. I have 3 like 1 litre carafes, and they have big Japanese activated charcoal rods in them. So I fill them up. I have them in order of which one's had. So I use the one that's been in the longest. It takes about 18 hours to adsorb everything else, because activated charcoal is a weird thing. It adsorbs stuff, which means stuff sticks to charcoal. It doesn't absorb. It doesn't go into the chemical, the atoms, molecules in any way. But everything sticks to activated charcoal. So, and you can really tell the difference. Like when I pour tap water, I can smell chlorine, but I can't smell it from these things. And then about every 6 or 8 weeks, I put them in a big pan and I boil the hell out of them, and this scum comes off that I pour away, boil it again to kind of reset them, refresh them. How much do I drink? When I first started my 90-day challenge, I was drinking probably 4 pints a day or more, like 2 to 3 liters of water a day, and with a lot of salt in it. But once everything settled down, I've gone down to about, I'd say, less than 1 liter of water a day now. Try and get my my water more from cellular water, from fat, if I can.
Nice one. Stephen, what kind of water do you drink? I know you probably do a bit more complicated stuff than we do.
I don't know why you think that. Right, I do drink Buxton water, and because I live near Buxton, you can actually go to the spring with a glass bottle or 6 and get it for free. Just so you know, if you go there. But obviously, not many people do that. Jonathan drinks Evian water, and I'm a big fan of Evian. But the only disadvantage of Evian is it obviously comes in plastic. I know Jonathan talks about the fact that plastic's passive, but I still prefer to get it in glass. It's just the way I feel. At home, we have reverse osmosis. So one thing I definitely say, we never have tap water. And if you're going to have tap water, yeah, you need to filter it, or you need to do the reverse osmosis on it. Also have a water softener. which is add salt to the water. So when you're showering and stuff like that, I know you're talking about drinking, but I'm just talking about water across the board, because I think it's really important, the stuff that you put on you as well. So like the shower, when you've softened the water, you don't have to clean the shower, instead of having that sort of scummy grey cloudy stuff that sticks to the glass of the shower. You don't get any of that. You don't get any of the calcification around the taps and things. So yeah, big fan of Evian, which incidentally, if you spell it backwards, it's naive, but Evian is really good. There you go. Someone's put that. How about that? It's one of my corny bits of trivia, but mainly reverse osmosis. So here, by the way, I have reverse osmosis water, and it's not that cloudy normally. That's because I've got some lemon in there. Why do I put lemon in there? Well, the technical scientific name is taste, because I like it. I just like a bit of zing. So no health benefits in particular. I just like the taste of it.
Fair. What about you, Lee? We're talking about this just before the stream started, but
about this, that's going to be a night of coincidences. I definitely do not drink tap water. I don't actually drink too much. I'd say between 500 to 750 milliliters a day. Again, same as Stephen, a lot of Buxton. I also have, I think it's Spring Valley. Is it called Spring Valley? Or Highland Spring Valley, something like that. It's whatever the missus brings home, and usually it is a lot in plastic. I went through a phase where I was paying a little bit more for these Voss glass bottled ones, and then I sort of justified that because I started drinking raw milk, and I found when I started drinking raw milk, I had no water. I wasn't drinking water whatsoever. I'd have raw eggs in the morning. I'd drink a couple of glasses of raw milk. I never even crave water, and it's very low deuterium. It's very healthy and pure. They're concentrating that for their young, and so it's not like a lethal toxic kind of water source. But yeah, I mean, I get a lot from my fats and a lot from me. I do eat some raw meat, so I'll probably get a balance. But I was just asking the chaps actually before, because I was thinking about potentially investing in some kind of reverse osmosis system for water at home. Certainly when I go into surgery and things like that, it may be of some benefit. But
yeah, fair enough. Like Stephen said, I drink Evian water. I'll drink the next best thing, which is probably Buxton water as well. I'm not too fussy, but if I'm shopping somewhere, I can see it in front of me, I grab it. If there's a substitute that comes in my order, because I do about 3 food shops per week, then I'll just take the substitute. I don't really care too much. I don't drink tap water. The only exception is where I have a drink out where they probably do, or almost certainly do, use tap water. In terms of the quantity I drink about 2 to 2.5 litres at the moment. When I'm leaning down, I drink more water, and I also salt my food more. When I'm gaining weight, I've got high fat intake. I don't drink that much water at all. I hydrate through the fat, as the guys have said. Raw milk as well. I really like that, and that probably throws a bit off. But in terms of actual total volume of either raw milk or water every day, 2 to 2.5 litres as of right now.
Can I answer quantity? Because I missed quantity. I drink first, and I use my urine colour as a guide to how much I should drink. So if it's dark, I drink slightly more, and if it's clear, I drink a lot less. Because if you've got clear water, clear urine, you're drinking too much water, and therefore you're depleting yourself of electrolytes. I did spot someone said about distilled water. What are your thoughts about distilled water? Well, you've got this yin and yang. If you're worried about contaminants, then distilled water is possibly the best thing, but it's also completely devoid of minerals. So it's not the best thing. And I just want to chime in with what Ben said, and said it's brilliant to talk about metabolic water, because you can get water from your meat, and the fat of the animals there has got metabolic water, and you don't need to drink any water. You can get enough from food.
That's why camels have fat in their humps. It's not made of water. That's what they use to hydrate in the desert.
They've always got the hump, though.
There's that, yeah, for sure.
Sorry.
I'm glad you're back, Stephen. We'll get to the next question now, just as they appear on the screen, guys. So please just leave a queue before questions, so I can spot them easily. This was from Gaza, and it is, okay, you brainiacs, as we're doing enzymatic reactions, not burning our food for energy, Is there any way to equate the values we see on MyFitnessPal app to the ATP yield our meals eventually create? What he's asking is, can we insert our food, our macros into MyFitnessPal and it says, you know, our output is so many ATP? And the answer is no. We can't do that. The best bet is trial and error through tracking macros, or just food intake from what we're taking in. Going by our subjective measures, our objective measures, so how our clothes fit, how our energy is, how we sleep at night, all that sort of thing. If you want to use a better app, which I absolutely do recommend, I'm not affiliated at all, but I've been using this app for 7 years now over MyFitnessPal, and that's a chronometer. It's more accurate, it's got a larger database, and it's not prone to being absolutely FUCK'd like MyFitnessPal, which I've noticed 9 times out of 10 with clients. I tend to not let clients use that app because it is so inaccurate, and what I formulate my plans on is based on chronometer, which uses the USDA food standard, you know, nutritional amounts, especially as people are eating whole food. You know, 20% lean mince is going to be 20% lean mince. As soon as you start putting in Tesco 20% lean mince, was that cooked? Is that raw? Is there a differential between, you know, one brand or the other? We don't know. So I prefer to use like the generic outline of what food might yield. But do you guys have any take on fitness tracking apps or, you know, nutrition tracking?
Absolutely. Yeah, I mean, definitely do, because what's the point of calories on protein? What is the point? It's never oxidized for energy. It makes structure in the body. I mean, really that simple. So it's not going to contribute to energy in any way, shape, or form, really, in a meaningful way, in a diet amongst, you know, average people like us. So then you get into fats and you get into carbohydrates. Now, fats, again, are going to make some structures, not as high a percentage as many people think. A lot of fat is oxidized for energy. Carbohydrates, of course, don't really make anything other than get oxidized for energy. So if you're looking at a FitnessPal app, it's going to give you a completely wrong profile, because it will treat protein as a calorie, right? And well, calories are meaningless anyway. It's a measurement of heat. It does nothing except maybe give you a rough guide of what you're eating in a sort of mainstream way, but we're not eating in a mainstream way. We're eating in a very low carbohydrate way. I mean, the amount of times you see studies talking about, you know, the benefits of low carb, but are they questionable? We took a group of people and they ate 35% of their calories from carbohydrates, 35% or less, and you think, well, straight away that's nothing like a low carb or keto diet. So it's all pretty irrelevant. I think the more relevant thing is how hungry you feel when you get satiated and when you want to eat again. And then tracking, looking in the mirror. I mean, looking in the mirror is tracking. Thinking how you feel is tracking. Did you sleep good last night? Well, that's tracking, and that's all you need to do. That is all you need to do. If you equate it to living in the wild, for instance, you know, if an animal goes to a bush and it forages and it takes berries off there and it starts feeling sick, that animal is not going to go back to that bush, or it might not even eat those berries again, or it might listen to its parent, who, when it goes to eat off that bush, the parent smacks it around the ear and says, "Don't do that," you know, because that's what we should be doing, not smacking each other around the ear, but we should be listening to what the food does to us. Going back to Ben's box of crackers or my sort of smoothie thing, never touch that stall again. Whereas if I have a ribeye, boy, do I know that I feel good, and do I sleep well? Yeah, I do. And does my body composition suffer? No, it doesn't. So it's a great question, though, because it would be great to know what our energy yield was from each thing. So you could eat fiber and you could go, that was pointless. Where is it? Oh, it's in the toilet. Oh, I see. So we've done all that for nothing. And then people might stop yabbering on about fiber. Sorry to sort of rant a bit, but I mean, that's the truth. You could also get a big from protein. You think, well, what's happened there? Well, it hasn't ended up in the toilet. We could have a little scan of where it ends up in your body. You know, oh, wow, that's great. Or the fat, you know, making the cells in your brain. You think, this is amazing. So I think it is a fabulous question. But the way we track food is just in the dark ages, and the mainstream's understanding of food and how they present it to people is just laughable. So I think in this space, that's why you get good questions like this in this space, because people start thinking about what's actually going on. So I like the question very much.
Like someone in our group group the other day and said, you know, how did you sleep? And she said, oh, I forgot to charge my Aura ring. So I don't know. So I said, oh, that's a pain, because now you don't know whether you should be tired today or not.
Brilliant, Ben. That's brilliant.
Yeah, nothing's.
Yeah, I mean, I'll give Gaz the benefit of the doubt here, because he's one of my channel members. He's, you know, cares about body composition stuff, bodybuilding stuff. So that's why he's tracking. That's why it's a very sort of specific question. But largely speaking, this sort of stuff doesn't apply to most people. It's just if you have a problem, with your weight, look at tracking things, see where you're going wrong, because otherwise you don't know what you're doing. Largely speaking, people are about 40% off in terms of their macronutrient or food intake recall in a given day. So if people are that far off, they don't know what they're doing. So if you have a problem with your body composition, I would suggest at least tracking what you're doing for a week, then going from there. Have an idea of portion sizes. Oh, this is how much meat I eat. I eat this many eggs for breakfast, you know, stuff like that. But yeah, it's a good question. But yeah, there's a lot of thought put into that for sure. Lee, do you have any takes at all on this question?
I mean, I haven't tracked a single thing since I started. And again, I was just going to say that if I was bodybuilding, that may be useful to try and track, because then you may be able to figure out how am I going to get bigger, you know, what I need to up in terms of macros and things like that. But yeah, I just listen to my body. If I'm hungry, I eat. When I'm not hungry, I stop eating. And that's it, pretty much. I wait, you know, sort of an hour either side of my meals to drink water if I can, and then drink a bit of water. Actually, I've just incorporated a little bit of raw milk again. I'm going to prime again for my surgery. So I'm drinking less water immediately, actually. So.
Fair, that makes sense. We got a question which kind of goes back to what we've talked about being fat adapted and adapted to like a carnivore diet. That's from Gone Carnivore. So is fat adapted just actually gluconeogenesis? The answer is no, and there's about 3 or 4 things that come into it. Ben or Stephen, I mean, do you want to go first? I mean,
I'll defer to Stephen on this one.
Go on, Stephen.
Oh, right, yeah. Okay. Well, gluconeogenesis, for those that don't know, you just break it down. It's glucose. Neo is new, and genesis is making. So that's just talking about making new glucose. Well, your liver does that from the moment you're conceived, or once your liver is fully formed, and it's making glucose into your bloodstream. That's what's happening, and that happens to everybody. Overnight when you're sleeping, you're going to get gluconeogenesis. So it's not a thing that's happening all of a sudden because you've gone this way of eating. And I would definitely like to switch this on its head. This way of eating is not something you're adapted to. It's something you've been perverted away from. So when you're born and you're in ketosis and you're supposed to be fed breast milk and then the meat and fat of animals and eggs and decent stuff, we stopped doing that, and most of the children now are fed rubbish and plant-based material. So you adapt. You are carb adapted. When you come off the carbs, you go back to normal. So you're reverting to what you should be eating, the proper human diet, as Ken Berry calls it with the PhD, species specific, species appropriate, whatever terminology you want. So that's it. We should be running on fats and not predominantly on carbohydrates that come in from the diet. Now, you can live on glucose that's coming from your liver, and that's what happens. And we also have some ketones because the body is built that way. That's why we have amylase. That's why we have gluconeogenesis. There are certain elements in the body that has to have glucose. Red blood cells spring to mind. You have to have a bit of glucose in there. So it's part of physiology. So don't be frightened of glucose. Don't think, wow, I'm still pumping out glucose even though I'm not eating any, because your body's pretty smart. And this is a big confusion within the community when people are new and they measure their blood glucose and they say to me, especially the diabetics, well, I haven't eaten any glucose for 2 weeks and yet my blood glucose monitor is saying 100. And I'm like, yep. And the issue with that is they don't really know, because it shouldn't be 0. They know it shouldn't be 0 as well. So if you're not eating glucose, and it just actually proves that you do not need to eat dietary carbohydrates because your body makes it, and it makes it from non-carbohydrate substrates. So Jonathan was right with his very short answer. Is fat adapted just actually gluconeogenesis? No, it isn't. that's all I can say on that, really, I think.
So, but fat adapted means that most of the cells in your body are using ketones, not glucose. Yeah.
Well,
And that
yes,
your
but I mean, yeah.
mitochondria in those cells have kind of tooled up for the use of ketones in preference to glucose as well, which is a process that takes some time. Yeah.
Yeah, well, I would say that for me, just out of experience, I mean, it depends what position you're coming from. You may have a bunch of, glycogen in your liver, in which case you might have to deplete that first. And there's different, it's not a race to get into optimal ketosis or whatever. It's just, you adopt the diet and it happens when it happens. But for me, I didn't feel properly fat adapted. And that's just how I put it, really, for about 4 months, because I wasn't able to get in as much fat. It wasn't that I wasn't fat adapted in the way that I wasn't in ketosis, and that I didn't garner a lot of effects. I was in a great position. My depression had already gone. All these other wonderful things happened, but I just wasn't able to eat enough fat. And actually, maybe it was to do with healing. I'm not really sure. But for a while there, I was losing a bit of weight. I couldn't eat enough fat. It was so overwhelming to get the fat in that I needed, which I can do now. And after, say, 4 months, no cravings, no nothing, I can get more fat in, and I was thriving even more. So it's a tricky thing, really. Yeah, like you're saying, it's got nothing to do with gluconeogenesis, but for me, I felt in some ways I wasn't really there until about perhaps 4 months in, where now no cravings, no nothing, and I can get more fat in and feel better about the energy that I have. And that's probably why I could fast. When I tried a little bit of fasting in the beginning, I had no success whatsoever. When I fasted months down the line, I was absolutely fine, which lets you know 100% you're fat adapted, because if you feel like you've got all the energy in the world and you haven't eaten for a day, you're fat adapted,
Yes,
So, I mean, people do have to understand that fat will be made into glucose, and some proportion of the fat you eat will go through the liver and be, converted into glucose. That will happen. And of course,
Yes.
obviously, when you make triglycerides, you've got a glycerol backbone, which is pretty handy for quick conversion into glucose. And the brain, what I'm trying to get at, guys, is people shouldn't be scared of glucose. They shouldn't be thinking my glucose monitor needs to be 0 and my ketones need to be 5. That's not what we're aiming for. And the brain would not want that either. And I'm not saying you need glucose to run your brain, but your brain does like a mix of ketones and glucose. But the key I'm trying to get at is you do not have to eat the glucose that the body demands. It makes it. So gluconeogenesis is demand driven. That's a corny phrase that most people push out. And that's absolutely right. And that's the difference. I suppose that's the key to why your body composition is so much better, because when you eat it, you're just pushing the amount of glucose that's incoming, making life really difficult. If you're 100% fat adapted and you are eating, just fat, you're not eating any carbohydrates, you still get glycogen, you still get glucose coming from your liver, and you still get some usage of glucose to run certain processes in the body. But it's down to the body to demand, to work it.
Preloaded as such,
Yeah, there's quite a common myth actually that your brain cells all prefer glucose over ketones. I actually put this to Anthony Chafee the other day, who is obviously a neurosurgeon, brain surgeon, and he said it's bullshit.
Yes.
A quarter to a third maybe of your brain cells do prefer glucose, but the majority of your brain cells, if there are any ketones available, will grab the ketones and use the ketones in preference to glucose. So it's an urban myth, this thing.
Yeah, and this is the book that is misquoted. I mean, this is where it comes from, because it says the brain needs 120 grams of glucose per 24 hours, which is pretty much true, but it doesn't say that it prefers it. And you need more than that energy wise to run your brain. So where's the extra energy come from? And that comes from ketones.
Yeah, it's got to be the opposite, isn't it, really? For me, I think if I came out ketosis, I'd probably end up being all anxious and depressed again. So my brain certainly loves all the fats, and not all the glucose.
Yeah.
Maybe 20% of my brain runs on glucose, which is made, and the rest thrives on fats.
Yeah, there's no preference. There's no, if there is a preference, it's the fact that they want ketones and a backup of glucose. And that's where, what's his name? Tim Noakes, his central governor theory, when he talks about exercise, he thinks that the reason people struggle with exercise is because the brain has this, what's called central governor effect, where it will slow everything down because it doesn't want the brain to have a shortage of glucose. It doesn't want it to be hypoglycemic. And that sort of makes sense. Whether that's going to be proven, I don't know. But it's a really good theory. Just throw that out there.
I think that's something to that for sure. I mean, if people watching this now and they're wondering what Stephen's talking about, check out on Richard Smith's channel, Professor Tim Noakes, his interview. It's got like, I don't know, 60, 70,000 views. I learned a few things from it. As someone that does exercise, does understand exercise really well. So that kind of tells me it's definitely worth watching. I'd certainly look at that one. Does seem to be some central governor in terms of like brain glucose, and how our body senses what we have in our brain at a given time and how it dictates performance outcomes. It does seem to be true. But like the guys have said, you don't have to consume carbohydrates to get it. You can do MCT oils. You can do, well, a little bit of protein might do a bit of it, but a lot of it will be fat as well. And I actually had a comment recently. So I'm on a bodybuilding contest preparation right now. I'm about 11 weeks out. What I do is a 5-day low intake during the week and a 2-day moderate intake on the back end of the week. I always take my check-in photos, my progress photos week to week on a Friday in the morning where I'm flat, depleted, not pumped, poorly fed, not feeling energetic at all. And my coach who I'm employing at some point soon is like, oh, you look really full. And that's a bodybuilding term to say your muscles are full of glycogen. And I'm like, I haven't eaten shit for the last like week. Nothing. I've eaten like chicken breast and 95% beef. So obviously the body fat that I've accumulated and trying to lose right now is obviously titrating itself into my glycogen systems to be burnt off as energy. And people think that we can somehow deplete our glycogen stores. It's really hard to do, guys. In different like mouse models or even human biopsies, it's hard to get our muscle glycogen below about 60%. It's really hard to do. So people out there saying, oh, I've not eaten today and I'm fat adapted and I'm starving and this, your body can still do its thing. You just need to give it time. And like Lee said, you just have to give it time. Some people, it does take a few months. It took me a week on a carnivore diet versus a high carbohydrate, 1,000 grams of carbohydrate diet a day to get in a point where I was performing exactly the same as I was before. So it is very individually unique. And obviously I'm 28. I'm relatively young compared to a lot of people online in this kind of space. So there's probably that advantage as well. I upregulate my mitochondria a lot. I sleep grounded. I do a lot of cold thermogenesis. I do a lot of other biohacks to make sure my mitochondria pump out as much ATP as humanly possible. So that's how I'm doing quite well considering how little I'm eating. I'm probably actually eating less than all three of the other guys in this panel right now, I'd imagine. So it just goes to show, it's not just macros and food. There's also an element of quantum physics which come into it. We can gain about 2/3 of the electrons we need to give our body, energy to do different tasks each day from the sun. I get outside in the sun as much as possible. I walk the dog each day. I go out around about lunchtime. I might go to the gym. I roll my sleeves up. I go out wearing a t-shirt in this kind of weather. So, I tried to get as much energy from different sources as possible. That's how I'm doing it. So that's one of the pitfalls of like the fatty acid stuff and glucose, and I think we've covered that really well, guys. Actually, I'm really happy with that.
Well, I want to add something else to you as well, which sorry about this. It's just very interesting for glycogen storage. There is a study, and I was desperately trying to look it up actually because it's really interesting. I don't want to misquote it, but basically they were really looking at the glycogen store and how quickly it could replenish and the restoration. And even someone fasting was able to replace all their glycogen within 2 hours because it's so important. So even fasting. So all this stuff about, 90 minutes after training, you have to eat 50 grams of protein and, drink 2 gallons of water or whatever it is. It's just not true. The body is so smart. We are underestimating how quick it can do these things. Got to have substrates to it, but pretty much everyone's got some available substrate. There's not anyone in this room that's got body fat percentage under like 5% or something right now. So I know you want to, Jonathan, but we haven't got that, and it's there, and the body will put that glycogen back.
Yeah, for sure. That's a good point. I think it's a question specifically for Lee here. So Julie's trying to eat meat and eggs, small amount of cheese. I know it's not enough, but I'm not hungry. I stop eating at 3 p.m. and then fast till 12 p.m. the next day. Well, the first most obvious thing is, why the hell are you fasting? Why would you cut off your eating window if you're trying to eat food? I get this a lot, guys. That's why I'm a bit frustrated. Listen to your body. If you're cutting your eating window, I can only eat in 3 hours. Well, there's only 3 hours we can eat food. If you give it an extra hour, maybe that 4th hour you might be hungry. Lee, what's your take on maybe meat or food aversion?
By the sounds of it, she's not hungry. Like, that's what she can eat. But yeah, I mean, I would perhaps try and get in another meal. It's difficult. I mean, in a way, I can kind of connect with you with the fat. I wasn't able to get enough fat in at the beginning, and it just kind of I made the effort to try as much as possible every day to push that, and eventually I kind of pushed past this wall. But it's tricky. I mean, maybe mix up the diet a little bit, maybe try and incorporate some variety where you can kind of enjoy some things, the taste of different things. It shouldn't be sort of this grueling challenge. It should be, as enjoyable. It should be enjoyable. You should really enjoy all the foods that you're eating. And that's all I would recommend, is maybe change your diet a little bit, perhaps incorporate some different meats, maybe try some fish, some wild mackerel or something like that. It's tricky. I mean, I've heard a lot of this, from people that eat sort of ground beef and eggs and that, and they get a bit sick and they say after a while, I'm sick of this, I don't want to eat. And my only answer to that would be, try something else, try different cuts of meat. If you can afford a bit of lamb, get some lamb cutlets and lamb loin, and scramble some eggs up, add some butter to that. Maybe just add the variety. It depends obviously on your lifestyle as well. But for me, it's tricky, with output and stuff like that. If you've got a bit of a physical lifestyle, it sounds like you're not eating anywhere near enough.
Yeah, it depends if something's wrong with this person as well. There's 1,000,001 things. I mean, this sort of thing, I'd have to consult with them. I couldn't give them off the cuff advice. If I say to you, okay, eat more food, well, are you like 30 stone? Because that would be a bad piece of advice. Do you have an eating disorder? Do you have liver issues? Is your gallbladder not working properly? Do you have severe mitochondrial dysfunction? Do you have any medication that you're taking? Do you have some absurd acute injury or illness? I couldn't say. Honestly, I couldn't give advice, honestly.
Individual, really. I've enjoyed mixing the diet up. I went through a stage where I was eating a lot of ground beef. I had some bacon bits and some eggs. After a while, that became a little bit sort of challenging even to eat. And the eggs in the morning, the same way, the same sort of style and all this stuff. After a while, so I'm eating one leg egg less again and again. So I just decided to mix it up. For me, I do far better to skip breakfast and build up an appetite, and I can now eat a really big, nutritious meal. That works for me. But I always regret having that little bit of breakfast in the morning, because first of all, I can't, for some reason, I might feel a bit hungry. I'll cook some eggs up. I only manage about 4 eggs, which is crazy. I think, how can I only manage 4 eggs? I'm full. I go to work. I don't quite build up the appetite. Come home and I eat maybe 800 grams of beef, and it's like, all right, I'm sort of done. But I don't think, for me, if I skip breakfast to go out, I go and do my physical job for a bit, come back, tend to some things, really build up an appetite. I can sit there and eat a kilo of red meat now, some eggs, some extra butter, salt, and then some water later, and that seems to do fine for me. But yeah, it's just tricky. I would just recommend some variety. Maybe skip you eating it for breakfast, or I would just perhaps delay until later on. So maybe even do some exercise to build up that appetite, because you're not really going to be sort of burning all these calories that you won't be able to make up for that with your food. You'd be doing one hell of an exercise routine to not be able to compensate with the food. So for me, I would just perhaps put it off, build up an appetite and add variety.
Yes, solid advice, Lee. Cheers for that. We got a question for another question. This one's from my friend Paul anyway. I think you fit the standards for a Carnivore muscle t-shirt. Definitely. There we go. Questions about the merchandise again. So I can't speak for Stephen, but it's about 20% commission. So we don't produce anything. We simply have our logo on our online store, and we get money for people that click on that link. It's like an affiliation, I think. So
I get 10%. I don't get 20.
Okay, I shouldn't have said that.
No, that's fine. No, that's fine.
Never mind. Yeah. Oh well. Meat is 70% water.
Yep.
About that. Yeah, it depends how lean, but yeah, about that.
75.
Hey,
yeah.
what do you? That's it. Yeah. Hey, what do you think about seasonings, paprika, and stuff like that, guys? What seasonings do you use, or what seasonings do you think are most innocuous to the human body?
Salt. I use salt. Salt is a mineral. Pepper is a seed. So when people say salt and pepper, it's a bit like saying fruit and veg. They're completely different. So I wouldn't have pepper because it's a seed, and everything that comes with seeds, which is the fact that, you know, what does Anthony say? They're the babies, the plant's babies. So they're very defended, something like that. What I would say, if you're carnivore and the only way you're going to stay on it is adding garlic powder, then add garlic powder with the view to maybe not having garlic powder in the future, because you will feel better without it. But if it's a game changer, you are better to do it and use it. So I think when you start, if you need it, do it. I never have understood why people put pepper on steak, because it absolutely ruins the taste. I know why chefs do it, because it brings out the flavor allegedly. But if you put salt on it, it's much, much, much preferable to pepper. But that's what I think.
Ben, what seasonings would you use, or if any?
I use most of those from time to time, but then I've never been very damaged either. Salt is the most important. My favorite definition of salt is the thing that makes food taste horrible when it's not in it, because it does unlock every other flavor, particularly eggs. Eggs without salt is just not, you know, what's the point of life? But yeah, I mean, the bottom line is not what we think. It's about what does your body tell you if you get on with these things. But I would suggest cutting it all out and then reintroducing one by one. Not salt. Salt is a non-negotiable. You need it anyway. But yeah, other than that, see what your body tells you. But you've got to start from a very quiet place of a baseline of cutting it all out to start with.
Lee, what seasonings are you into? I mean, you've obviously got the most wrecked digestive system of all of us, so you could say firsthand what the worst thing is.
Well, I've got rid of the worst part of me. It's gone. So no. Yeah, so high quality salt to taste. That's me. In the very beginning, I did add pepper to my salt, pepper to my steak. That's just kind of like a learnt behavior. Anytime I had beef, I'd add sort of pepper and garlic and all this kind of stuff. I was even adding a bit of paprika on my eggs in the morning. But once I did the BBBE, which was only 30 days, since then, I've kind of been very strict. So I don't even touch anything. And actually now, it's funny you say that, Stephen. The idea of adding pepper now to my steak is just crazy. I would never want to do that, ever. So you do adjust. It would be like, you know, if you're used to having 4 sugars in a tea, for example, and you drop them down to 1 for like 2 months, you add 3 other extra sugars in there, you probably spit it out. So you get used to this stuff really quickly.
Yeah, for me, seasonings, Celtic grey salt or Sal de Grande, I like that. That's something I do have every single day. White pepper occasionally, maybe every other day, something like that. Outside of that, I wouldn't touch garlic, chili, or turmeric myself. If I did have chili, it'd be like a one-off kind of thing as a treat, just to be interesting. It wouldn't be something I'd choose to really have. These sort of things, especially like turmeric, for example, really high in oxalates. People with autism do not deal with salicylates, which are in garlic, onion, and also the oxalates, which are in turmeric. They do make people anemic, guys. They do bind to iron. When I started the carnivore diet, funny enough, 3 months in, I was anemic. Work that one out. I was using a shed ton of turmeric, and I was using loads of spirulina and a few other like seasonings and condiments. But in the grand scheme of things, yes, they did allow me to go more carnivore in that kind of sense, but they did make me anemic at the time. I wasn't absorbing the iron, and I've got the blood tests to prove it. So these things can seemingly be quite innocuous. You know, a gram of this over this whole meal, for some people, it can absolutely wreck their insides. So I personally would avoid most of them. There is a low oxalate food list, which I'd look at, and that will give you some ideas about which seasonings to use. I can't remember off the top of my head. I do know white pepper is better than black pepper. And there's a few which are seemingly quite all right. Paprika isn't too bad from memory. But like Stephen said, you know, do what you can do. You know, you might suffer a lot for it, but, you know, it's quite individual. Question about electrolytes. We need Richard. Where's Richard?
No, we don't need him. We can do this one.
We've heard it enough times.
Simple
Yes.
answer to the first bit. How do you know when you need electrolytes that salt, the idea of salt is attractive? And the problem with a lot of people is they want salt and they go for table salt, which is sodium chloride. So they're getting the saltiness, but then their body's saying, no, salt, proper salt. But everything's just got sodium chloride in it because they've taken out all the valuable salts and just left the most abundant.
And I think the thing is, if Richard was here, I know he would say, "Oh, it's all about the ratio. It's not about it," but possibly in a better Welsh accent than that. So, firstly, there are things that are common. So, if you have muscle weakness and cramps, that's the most common one. Then you might be low in magnesium, and so fatigue and weakness, those sort of things. A regular heartbeat. So we do the 2 questions there. So magnesium, big ones like nausea and vomiting. I mean, that can be low magnesium. Numbness, the tingling, pins and needles, low magnesium. All of these things are to do with muscle contractions, basically. Deeper, if you're into sort of DEXA scans and stuff, if you've got osteoporosis, you can definitely help your situation with a little bit more magnesium. Yes, I've been spending a lot of time with Richard. Can you tell? High blood pressure could be low magnesium, could be drinking too much water, by the way. That's just an interesting thing. If you don't think that's true, get a glass of water just before you drink it, take your blood pressure, then drink a glass of water and then do your blood pressure and you'll see it go up. That will happen. So insomnia is another one. And that I think most people know, like magnesium calm or something like that. Now, what's really weird about all this is what's low potassium? Well, that can be muscle cramps. And that can be weakness and fatigue, and irregular heartbeat. And the reason I did that like that is because it then comes back to ratios rather than whether you need one or the other. But the easiest way to work this out is to try a bit of magnesium. For instance, if you say you've got weakness and fatigue, if it doesn't resolve it, then you could stop doing that, try potassium. See, it's that. And then what you could work out is it's actually a ratio, which is why some people feel better with the electrolyte mix. I'm not selling Richard's electrolytes, I'm just saying. But then you get into the other thing. So constipation, right? Magnesium shit rate is what I call it, because magnesium citrate will get the old thunder going. But also, so will potassium. Same thing. So there's lots of things. Numbness and tingling, same thing, low potassium. So what's the point here I'm making? The point is you can't really tell from symptoms. It's a trial and error thing. But those 2 are very similar. But there are a few things that are potassium specific, like mood changes tends to be potassium, and frequent urination, which can also be a sign of pre-diabetes and diabetes if you've got lots of unquenchable thirst. But frequent urination can be down to low potassium. So that's as much as I can remember from dealing with Richard every single Sunday. There you go. Of course, muscle cramps after exercise is more to do with potassium. I can hear his voice now, but I can't do it. Than it is to do with magnesium. So after exercise, low potassium will give you muscle cramps. I think he'll be pleased with me.
We'll have to send it in and get his review and critical analysis.
Oh, yes. It's a shame you couldn't make it. Can I just pop it because I've got to go to coaching? You had Michael Mason on Team GB, and it was a brilliant guy. He's actually bought out his beef jerky. So for people that are interested in the UK, because that's the whole point of the Team GB, I'm not got an affiliate link or commission or anything. He now has this beef jerky. So that's the Mason Survival Protocol. And it's fabulous. I tell you.
It's really nice.
It's better than the Carnivore crisps. I haven't got a link. It's purely just wanted to tell people. So it's nice to see you 3 guys and everybody online.
And you.
Sorry, I've got to go.
Take care, mate.
Cheers, Stephen. Take care.
Cheers. You can all talk about me now.
There we go.
I'll do your accent.
See you later.
See you in a bit. Yeah, those jerkies are really good, honestly. I wouldn't. I'm not affiliated with the guy at all, but I'd actually buy them if I was, a bit, if I was particularly hungry. I'm going to take them to the PHC as like a little snack pack because I'm going to be ravenous. I'm going to be like a week out from my show, but at that point, so I'm going to be like, if you guys see me there, I'll be like, sucked up, grey eyes, miserable as hell, probably struggling to walk. I'll probably be using a wheelchair of some sort, maybe, I don't know, or a stick. We'll see. Yeah, they're really good. It's genuine.
Are they quite fatty, or because I feel like jerky is usually really lean, isn't it?
Fatty, yeah.
Yeah, nice. Cool.
You right, Ben?
Yeah, on the subject of events, can we just throw out an ad for the War on Health that's in just over a week's time? If anyone can make it to the Peak District, put in the code GB Carnivore to get £50 off each ticket, booked separately. It'd be great to see you there, because Stephen's going to be there, Rich is going to be there, and Phil is going to be. We're all speaking there, along with a bunch of other cool people. So yeah, if you could stick that, bigfatchallenge.com, click on events, or click on the button, and it'd be great to see you guys there. And if if the cost is an option, £50 off isn't enough, email me via the webpage, and we'll sort something out.
That's very generous. Yes, it's a great value proposition for the speakers that are there. It's in person. It's not a recorded thing. You do have to be there to get involved and stuck in. So a lot of the guys that you've seen on this channel will be here, representing and just talking about their particular niche in this field of the carnivore/health space. Very good. We'll do. Ben, do you want to pick some questions? Because we could probably do one or two more if you wanted.
Yeah, for sure. All right, let's do. Do you guys track ketones? Do you worry about staying in ketosis? No and no. I've had my ketones tested once the other day, just for giggles. I remember I was just listening to a Q&A by Anthony Chafee. He says, I've never tested my ketones in my life. I just eat my meat and let my body crack on with the rest. That's it.
Fair. Where you live, you tracked.
I do know somebody who's suffered multiple brain traumas and who does carefully track their ketosis because it's so protective for the brain, but not in my case.
Lee, what about you? Have you tracked these things?
No, I peed on a stick in the beginning out of curiosity. I was right in optimal range, and then when I fasted for 5 days, it went almost black, so I was very, very low. Very high ketones, low glucose kind of thing, but I don't measure. I think if I had cancer or something, I probably would. Other than that, I wouldn't bother. Your body's very, very smart and knows what it's doing.
Yeah, I've got contrasting opinions on this for most people, to be honest. A lot of the talks come about from the studies on classical ketogenic diets and epilepsy, stuff like that. I'm kind of in speculation of whether or not it's the lower inflammation of the diet that caused, those sort of issues to become less prominent, or if it's the ketones themselves. Like how much of each of those things was it? Was it the low inflammatory diet? Was it the ketones? It's very hard to measure. I mean, you would have to get a lot of anecdotes, but I think it's probably a mixture of both. Now, when we're talking about ketones, do I track them? No. How I track them? I did it once for about a week, maybe at different points. I found myself, I feel best somewhere between 0.5 and 1 on the scale. I got up to about 5 at one point and I felt absolutely horrendous. I had anxiety, heart palpitations, and I think my protein was probably too low. So it wasn't a pleasant feeling for me at all as someone that is physically active and goes to the gym. And I've met people on either side. So I've met people that feel good at about 0.5 and I've met people that feel great at 5. So largely speaking, I wouldn't say it matters. And if it was that causative towards positive life, positive health outcomes, then there'd be an absolute rule of thumb. Okay, Ben, Lee, Stephen, Richard, we all need to be on 4 ketone units, but that's not the case. So I did make a video a while ago, maybe 8 or 9 months ago, says keto isn't the answer or something like that. I talk about all the problems with different methodologies of ketone testing and why perhaps they're not very accurate or perhaps not even useful. And as time goes on, your ketones might actually go down because you're actually utilizing the ketones that are in your blood anyway. So you're chasing, you're kicking a can along the street, I think, if you think it's going to give you some enormous benefit outside of maybe some very specific health stuff. Ben, do you have any other sort of questions that you're keen to answer?
Oh, I don't know, really. Let's go with Holly's one. I started Carnivore June last year. I basically only eat ground beef and eggs. Am I doing it right? It feels right. There you go. You've answered your own question. If it feels right, it's right. I'm only eating ground beef and eggs really at the moment. The odd like seafood omelette, but then I'm just trying to eat more really at the moment because I felt like I lost quite a lot of weight very quickly. I was starting to look a bit haggard. So yeah, I'm just trying to cram in as much as I can. Yeah, if it feels right, trust your body, Holly. Body, Holly. Sorry, bad pun, but unintentional. But yeah, if your body's happy, no worries. Crack on, guys.
What about you, Lee?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, why not? I think you're eating some good food there. I mean, the only thing I would say is if down the line you start to feel like your energy's dipping or something like that, especially if you're losing weight perhaps and then you get hungry, like more hungry for more food, it might be worth looking into upping the fat a little bit potentially. Depends on how fat your ground beef is. I would always go to a butcher because they can make it as fatty as you want. That's about it really. But
I'm buying 25% fat these days, and I literally go to Tesco's and buy 25% fat or Aldi. And actually, my dogs and I are on the same food right now, so it's very simple.
Cool. Excellent.
Yeah, I buy about 4 things in the shops, guys. I'm just like you. I'm buying more variety now because I'm eating leaner meats. But yeah, largely speaking, it is eggs, butter, milk, beef, maybe chicken sometimes. You know, yeah, I think there's nothing wrong with this kind of diet at all. It's very nutrient dense, very complete. There's not, you know, there's more than one way to skin a cat. Depending on who you ask, is a different benefit. I think a lot of people in this space are drawn to extremes, and they think they'll get more benefit from cutting out eggs. But in most cases, it doesn't seem to be the case because I don't know many people that follow a lion diet, to be honest. Very few people do that I meet and consult with. Largely speaking, people I speak with eat about 4 or 5 animal foods every given day, and they seem to do well doing just that. So there we go. I don't know. I think it's fine.
Okay, do you want to do any more? You guys all right?
We'll do the one on, is it fasted we'll do the cardio one.
Okay.
There we go. Lee, do you have a take on this one? Because I know you used to bodybuild a little bit back in the day.
Oh, what, fasted cardio for faster fat burn? I only ever really did cardio so that I could eat more. That's the only reason I ever, you know, and I was always trying to build. So it was only to build up more of an appetite to get more food in. So, I mean, I think if you're going to fast, if you're fasting for whatever reason, you should be active. I think that's beneficial. But that's it. I wouldn't, this is probably more your thing really, Jonathan.
What about you, Ben? Cardio stuff.
Why not fasted resistance training as well? Because, you know, build some muscle and that'll burn fat in your sleep, which cardio doesn't do. But yeah.
I'm a bigger fan of resistance training. I'd rather see someone do that up to 4 times per week, up to an hour maybe at a push if your training is quite lackluster. Otherwise, I'd do probably less than that. I would look at other things as well, something which is perhaps a bit more weight bearing. I don't agree or like cardio indoors. I don't think it's great. I'd rather see someone ride a bicycle outside. I'd rather see someone walk across the field grounded, barefoot, walking the dog, getting some sunlight. Even if it's pissing outside, I'd still prefer that. I don't like that they're staying in front of a blue screen and a harsh, you know, white, intense lights. I think that's not good for your body at all. I think downstream that'll probably age people. I personally don't care when someone does their cardio at all. I think it's more to do with the compliance side of it. Studies show that when we do cardio, it doesn't make a single damn bit of difference towards our body composition. But studies also do show that if we can adhere to something, we're more likely to succeed at doing something. So there we go. Do what you can do.
And a third alternative as well is sprints. Like, you know, take your shoes and socks off, go to a park, find a slope, you know, get 20, 30 meters, whatever it is, doesn't really matter. Sprint up it and then walk down. Sprint up it, walk down. Do that until you get bored and go home. It's still more fun than cardio.
Yeah, I'm
way more fun.
Yeah, especially because you don't really benefit much from losing fat from doing cardio. You're better off just, if anything, eating enough food, eating enough food and doing all the right things.
And you know, all those little stickers that they have, like on the cardio, you know, the bikes and the treadmills and stuff in the gym that says fat burning zone. Bollocks.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, absolute trash, guys. Waste of time. Well, it's a waste of time. You'll have a heart attack much quicker for it, unless you're using it like Lee used it to eat more food, in which case you're probably mitigating some mitochondrial damage. If you're eating a carnivore diet and you're doing 4 sessions a week, then you're saying, I'm going to do, I don't know, half an hour cardio every day, you're probably going to have a heart attack quicker. You're expanding your left ventricle, and that is absolutely not necessary or helpful towards you making you live longer. Your heart will beat more in a short period of time. It'll get bigger and impact your life down the line. I don't think it's helpful. People say, yeah, but cardio is good for you. But okay, prove it. You can't prove it. We know for a fact that your heart will expand if you do too much. I've had my heart measured in times of size, actual ultrasound measurement, because I was concerned about that. You know, I'm a heavy sort of guy, quite tall, you know, stuff like that. I do naughty things. So in that case, you know, I should measure these things. I should keep track of these things. So yeah, I mean, my heart is a normal size for a 6'1" male. Now, how many bodybuilders out there that are 6'1" with my body weight can say that? Not many at all. So the carnivore diet seems to help that, and the taurine seems to prevent LVH and stuff like that, which is pretty helpful. But yeah, that's all we got time for tonight, guys. So sorry if we haven't answered your question yet, but we've been through way more than what we intended to do. I think we've been given some pretty good answers, and hopefully got some value from it. Please remember to check out Ben and Phil's website link, which I'm going to find again somewhere here. There we go. So check out this link if you haven't yet already and you're wondering what's going on. It's a great event. I'd highly recommend going to it. And also, this is a discount code, GB Carnivore, for £50 off. Also, approach Ben as well, just to get more information, or he might cut you a special deal if he's feeling particularly generous at that time. Otherwise, please follow also Lee's channel, which is Lee Coppas at Kent Carnivore, and Stephen Thomas, which is Coach Stephen Thomas on YouTube, who was on here earlier if you wanted more of his content. And if you subscribe to me, I'd be quite surprised, but it does help. So I appreciate that. Right, cheers, guys. Take care.
Cheers.
Yeah.
See you later. Have a good one.